Good.
You laugh, right? You just got a good laugh.
Well, yeah, it's like, we've been here, so then we have to restart a conversation we were already having.
Yeah.
You know? So let's see, what do we got here? If you could go to dinner.
Oh, you got a question
Yeah.
today.
Well, we got to warm up.
I got warm up shit.
Here's the thing for people to know is you got to warm up. You can't just hop in cold. Unless you got a better warm up. You got good warm up stuff?
Well, just like I was gonna say this yesterday. I thought I'd just say it for today because it's just like something we say every day. But so I went to the bathroom to go pee pee
again,
and a guy was walking out or washing his hands. So I go, "Hey, how you doing?" And he looks at me like, why is that a weird question? Why is that a weird question?
People don't want to talk, man.
Well, I get that.
I know
it's weird, eh?
And it's weird. I get that whenever I walk by someone, I'm looking for eye contact.
Yeah.
Unless there's obviously some moments I'm distracted or not paying attention or whatever. But for the most part,
carrying a fridge.
Yeah. Trying to complete a task. Now's not the time to talk.
Yeah.
But if I'm going by somebody, I look to say hi. And you would not believe, and I'm sure maybe some of the people that are listening are like this, I don't know, but people will just not look. They won't just say hi.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I'm walking through the lobby here and it's me and one other person and we're obviously going to walk by each other.
It's kind of like normal.
Yeah.
Hi, how you doing?
If you go out and there's 48 people there, it's okay, maybe you can just keep walking.
Yeah, you can't say hi to everybody.
Yeah, right? There's too many people, man. How many highs?
Take you all day. Then it becomes less sincere.
But honestly, it's you just say hi. It's not a weird thing. So anyways, here's my question.
So my next one is...
Okay, go.
I'm pissing around.
Cut me off.
But had a few beers with Darren Dreger last weekend.
Oh yeah, cool.
From TSN. So he's Patra's dad, Phil, and my other buddy. I call him my boyfriend.
It's your hockey boyfriend.
Yeah, my hockey boyfriend.
It's your work wife.
Yeah. So he's really good friends with him. So he came over and he says he listens to the podcast all the time and loves it. Actually commented the other day. So I was
how's Darren?
Well, I'm going to tell you this because he's going to laugh at this. He's a great guy.
Okay.
I thought he was the reporter guy, and he's so serious. But especially after talking to him, I realized he does his job. He does his job extremely well.
He knows his role.
Yeah. So I got to not got to meet him. I met the guy, and we had a couple beers and went to one of the games together. And really, really, really good guy. And so I talked a little bit. Not going to say any trade secrets and stuff, but I asked him different things. We didn't have a lot of time to talk just one-on-one and stuff, which I'd love to pick his brain. I'd like to get him on the podcast maybe. So we were talking and, we're sitting in a group of guys and wives actually. And, cuss words are happening. Eh? So I kind of interrupted and say, Darren, question for you. I said, do you ever have an issue as we're cussing a little bit here? You ever have an issue where you go on air where you have to I can't say the F-bomb, I can't say this, that, and he goes, no. He goes, no, no, not really, because Andy, if you go to a business meeting, you speak appropriately. Yeah. And I said, okay, so here's the problem. If I have a business meeting like that, I don't go to them.
Yeah.
And I said, basically half the time I walk around in my gym with my underpants on.
Yeah. No shoes.
So he goes, yeah, we can't do that. Yeah. But anyways, it was pretty neat talking to him from that side of the
that's a world we don't know.
Yeah, because the media thing to me is it's a pain in my ass, but I mean we watch it.
It's a pain in my ass.
Why is that funny?
I love when you say it's a pain in my ass.
Wow.
What did you say last week? Which coach was a pain in your ass? The basketball guy?
Phil Jackson?
No, Coach K.
Coach K, yeah, I was describing him in really good terms.
You don't know him.
Yeah.
I've had one conversation, it's pain in my ass.
Wow.
But yeah, no, it's cool because you don't know these guys that actually do the digging, do the reporting, and I have a source that says this and a source that says that, and it's you don't know that world. It's cool.
Well, one of the things he told me goes, it's I asked him about because he gets calls all day, right? Things are happening. And asked him whatever it was, and he said, no, the key is, people will tell you things, but they have to earn your trust. so that like if I tell you this now and I'll give you a little bit later, whatever. Like it's like don't bury me.
Yeah, right.
So once you have that trust, you have good relationships with people. So
yeah, like any other job, the relationships are a big deal.
Yeah, but like sometimes when you meet people, like he's got a profile, right? Like if I say Darren Dreger, TSN, most people, anyone that follows sports in Canada is going to have a very good idea who that is.
Yep.
Right. So in I'm going to carve him here. So he would be considered somewhat famous in a sense, right? Like he's not Dolly Parton or anything.
He's a public figure.
He's a public figure, right? So a lot of times you meet public figures, and a lot of the times is when you meet them, it's they project that public figure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like kind of like they're actually privately important.
Yeah.
And then many times you see normal people for who they are, and he was like a really good guy, So
genuine.
Genuine good guy.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
sweet.
So my next.
You have more?
No, I got more, but
more BS.
I got something that goes into hockey though.
Well, yeah, we can skip mine. Whatever. Okay, before
Ask
you do
me the question.
No, because it's gonna we're gonna get into a whole discussion, and then it's like.
So what?
Because I like your topic. I want to spend the time on the topic.
Oh really?
Yeah, because I know you got a lot there.
So the hockey thing now.
Yeah, before you do that.
Okay.
If you haven't reviewed the podcast, feel free to do that.
Yep.
Genuinely helpful. The store is going to be coming up. I think the end of next week, I'll be able to open it up. If not, 2 weeks.
Yep.
So it's coming. So for people that are members, I have a code for people that become members for the store. So if you want to get a discount, there's a incentive for you. If not, memberships are still there too. You've been getting some consult calls with a bunch of people that have been helpful. We're getting nice, good feedback on that. Going over video with some families and helping some kids out and stuff like that. So if you're interested in that, check that out. And with that, you can do your topic. Yeah, I like your topic.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
it kind of goes with our thing today. But I just wanted to talk about Tanner Jeannot, just for 2 seconds. So, and I think it's encouraging for a lot of people. Anyways, I think it's fairly encouraging. So Tanner Jeannot, a lot of people would not have a clue who that is. He played for the Nashville Predators, undrafted. He started in 2018, maybe. He's only his second or third year. No, it's his second year in the NHL, full year. So last year he had 24 goals. Tough, power forward and all that kind of stuff. 6'2", 220. So this guy is comes out of nowhere, basically undrafted. So yesterday or the day before, he just got traded to the Tampa Bay Lightning for a first-round pick, a second-round pick, a third-round pick, a fourth-round pick, a fifth-round pick, plus a first-round Cal Foote, who was a first-round pick, 14th overall, 6'5" defenseman. So that's my point to this. It's and of course anyone can make it. He was obviously a good player before, but he's got a quality, and it's like. He doesn't get 50 goals, doesn't get 60 goals, but he brings something else that is very, very coveted throughout the league. And look at the price that's paid. Now, I'm not a general manager in the National Hockey League, and I think this is a weird trade to give up that many assets for a second or third year guy who's not a 50 goal scorer, but more like a top 9 guy. So I'm assuming that there has to be some logic behind giving up that many picks to get one player. And I would assume maybe it's cap due to the salary cap.
Could be.
But nonetheless, to make room for the salary cap or whatever they're doing. But nonetheless, an undrafted player who nobody really ever heard of comes into the National Hockey League and gets 24 goals, I think it was, as a rookie, and hits like a truck, gets in fights, and is one of the best power forwards in the game. Gets traded for basically Tampa Bay gave away a full draft class, which is unbelievable because you never know what a first round pick. Well, you don't know what any pick's going to turn out with because there's a guy that wasn't picked. So the guys that it's really important, for me to say this, get like for the junior guys that listen and you're not drafted, this is like a really good story. But finding your roles and doing things, and sometimes, like I'm going to talk about later, you can do everything right. It's not going to. Sometimes it just doesn't work out.
Yeah. Can I
But-
make the story better?
Yeah, 100%.
So I just pulled up Tanner Jeannot's elite prospects. In 2011, 2012, he played for the Estevan Bruins. Never heard of them. Saskatchewan?
I don't. Estevan, Saskatchewan.
Estevan, Saskatchewan? Yeah, that makes sense. Saskatchewan Bruins. U15 AA.
Really?
U15 AA.
So he wasn't a AAA player, and maybe so. Just going to qualify that. Maybe it's because it's small towns. They don't have AAA.
Small town, and it could be. It looks like it's multiple ages per team. So like he played on the U15 AA team for 2010, 11, and 11, 12. 12, 13 played same team U18 AA, but then
U18
AA.
Okay, so he could have been 16.
16
or,
playing U18, but still AA.
Yep.
Then 13, 14 he played Yorkton Harvest U18 AAA. So that means it was AA.
I
Right?
think so.
He played AA until he
think
made
so.
that jump. So it looks like when he was 16 he played U18 AA. Then when he was 17 he played U18 AAA. That was his first year of AAA.
So most guys, if we get deep into the woods here, not most, but a lot of kids will that I have personally seen, they look at hockey as it's over, or this is a really hard battle and I don't know if I want to do it, or it starts to wane off into
right,
not necessarily believing that they're going to be get something out of it.
Yeah, and this is recent. Like this is 2000.
Yeah, dude.
Like his first year at AAA was 2014. We're not saying 1986. This is current, right? So because people will say that, well, you'll never make it if nowadays. Like back then, like people were saying that when we had Adam on and he was talking about he always played AA, and they're like, well, yeah, you played AA when people couldn't skate, and it's like, yeah, okay, whatever, man. But now that you can't say that in this situation. So it's just a good story. So then he goes, it looks like he signed with the Kindersley Clippers, SJHL, but he never played a game. And then he was in Moose Jaw the next year in the WHL. So I don't know if he didn't get.
How many years in Moose Jaw? 3?
4.
4?
So I don't know if
played an overage. No,
he played an overage, but he must have made it as a walk on.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see.
Because if he signed, it looks like he signed with Kindersley Clippers because they're on here.
Yeah.
So if he would have signed, he would have had to sign to have that entry.
Yeah. Or he was drafted and signed later. He could have.
Yeah. Right. So anyways,
he didn't even make it as an early prospect.
No.
So all the talk in 2014 or 15 or whatever it was wasn't about Tanner Jeannot.
Yeah.
Now he's the most sought after guy in the NHL.
Yes, he seems like
more or less.
So from that trade, it's fair to say. So then his first year, 52 games, 1 goal, 4 assists, minus 13.
In Nashville?
In Moose Jaw.
Oh, okay.
WHL first year.
So
second year, 72 games, 33 points, 65 PIMs now. Right? So you're starting to see a little bit of establishing a physical presence. Next year, 52 points, 84 PIMs. And then his last year, 80 points, 83 PIMs.
80 points because he had a lot of room.
Yeah. So 40 goals, 40 assists, 83 PIMs. Then he went AHL. So 2018-19 AHL, 19-20 AHL and East Coast, up and down. Then 2021, he played 15 games with Nashville, but he was assistant captain with the Chicago Wolves, and he still played 5 games in the Coast that year. And then 21, so last season he was Nashville, played the full season, 41 points, 130 penalty minutes. And now this year he was at 14 points, 85 penalty minutes.
Yep. Hits like a truck.
Yeah. So it's just
he's a new Tom Wilson.
Yeah, so it just goes to what we were saying in the last couple episodes, right? Like you look at that trade, and I want to pull up exactly what the trade was here.
I got it. A first in 25, a second in 2024, third, fourth, and fifth round in 2023.
Yeah.
Cal Foot.
Right. So they got Cal Foot, 5 draft picks. First round 2025, second 2024, 2023 a third, fourth, and fifth rounder. Now this is a guy. If you look at his stats, this is a guy. He's got 14 points, man. He's got 14 points this year, right? And that's what they just traded for. So when we talk about, you were mentioning last week that you talked to an NHL scout about a player, and they were saying, doesn't matter how many goals that guy scores.
That's right. That's right.
Doesn't matter how many goals that guy scores because he does a job, and that's the reason that we want him. So this guy, that's a trade that you would see. You would see a top point guy get in the neighborhood of that.
Five first round picks.
Yeah, right. So it's like this guy's he's got 5 higher draft picks for
amazing,
him,
man.
Right?
It's amazing.
And a player, and this is a guy that has 14 points in 56 games, right? So there's a lot of roles that need to be filled at that level, right? So good start off with that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, I just like that. I love seeing guys like that making it because like you just know that there's a couple things that are in play in a situation like that. Number one, there's a grind. And if it's not a grind, it's just pure love for the game. You know what I mean? It's like maybe he never even dreamed of playing the NHL. He loved hockey a lot and learned a role and he was good at it. Or he loved the game and he's grinded it out and believed in himself, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of ways to skin a cat, right?
Yeah. So are we good with the topic now?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
So first question for you.
Yes.
So we're going to talk a little bit. You're going to talk mostly.
But I want you to contribute.
Yeah. But you're going to talk about if you could go back and do the hockey development again, if you could go back and do your hockey career over, kind of things that you would do differently.
Yeah.
And because I know you want to throw some caveats on it, whatever. I'm just curious what made you think of this? Because we were kind of firing a couple topic ideas back and forth the last couple days. Yeah. So what was it that made you think to go this way? Just curious.
Because like a lot of times we speak in the tone of if you do this, we have like more like a lesson, like more of a teaching point. And I was thinking about it, and I said, it would be maybe interesting to maybe show some true vulnerability. So like what I'm saying here is like because I don't like saying this too often, but I was a very good hockey player. Okay, very good hockey player, drafted high, and a lot of things were going right. But then it was like the mental block. Then a lot of things went wrong, and a lot of those things are in my control. A lot of those things, but like ignorance, right? A lot of things were in my control. A lot of things I didn't know about, and a lot of it wasn't guidance, and a lot of it was maybe laziness, like all those different things put together. So I just thought if I would be somewhat vulnerable and explain where my head was at, like what I would have done differently, probably would have made a huge difference. And I'm speaking about this as if a kid or a parent or coach, I don't know, whatever you're involved in hockey, these could be some points that you may, I remember Andy talking about that, or being scared in the dressing room one time. It's like, everyone does that. So I like to be able to say this is actually how I felt, and with the experience of all the guys that I've played with, as we get older, everyone says the same thing. Not everybody and not all the same thing, but a lot of the things come to be the truth. So I just thought it would be interesting to put people in my head, and people might say, "Oh yeah, okay, whatever, bud." And now the other point of this is that even though like this is all hindsight stuff, so that's the first thing people say. Well, yeah, if I knew what to do with my first $100, I'd be a millionaire. Of course, I understand that. And the other side of it is, even though you do everything right, like if all these different things I did at a higher level or did it earlier or whatever different perspective, it doesn't guarantee anybody's playing in the National Hockey League. Well, I'm just saying that if I could do this all over again in hindsight, everything that I know now and my experiences and stuff like that, I feel that I've given myself a better chance. Or maybe I don't like to use the word regret, but if I have regrets, maybe that wouldn't be regrets. And I don't know if that's a word I want to use, because regrets, like, I don't know if I like to say you learn something instead of regret things.
Yeah.
But
sure.
but again, the perspective that I'm doing this from is from a kid, right?
Yeah.
A guy that didn't have a hockey dad or a hockey mom or anything like that. It's just like a kid that loved hockey that worked real hard at it and that was good at it, or thought he was working really hard, or thought he was really good at it, and then things happen and don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
So that's all.
On the just on quick on the regret thing, I think because I've thought about that a lot too. Is like when is regret the right term to use? And I think the regret comes in only when you knew better and didn't do something. I think that's more when that happens because when I think back with my own trajectory too, and it was like I don't regret anything because I made the best decision I could make. I remember making the choices still, right? And it was like I didn't have better information. So it was like, I don't regret it because I did the best that I honestly could. So I think as long as you can, and the reason that this could maybe be helpful is because then it'll help you to avoid and identify some of the glaring things that are easy to miss if you just know that they're coming. Because there's a component where we've talked about before where you need to go through the grind, like you need to learn things yourself. But this isn't really that. This is more, what are some big things that are going to happen or that could happen that are just easy to avoid, and there's no reason that you have to go through it, because there's certain things that you have to go through and you have to experience. But if there's a little bit of perspective or things that can make you feel like you're not alone in the situation that you're in, then maybe that helps you overcome the obstacle, as opposed to thinking no one's ever been in this situation that you've been in before, whatever. So I think those are kind of the two ways that I think about it. But the other thing I want to highlight before you go is, you said this doesn't mean if you went back and corrected these things that you would make the NHL. That's
right.
That's an important thing that people need to hear, because obviously there's always things you can improve about things that you're doing, but making the NHL is more than just in one person's control. A lot of things have to go right. A lot of timing has to go right. Your development has to go right. You got to be on the right team and in the right situation. And you could do all the right things on paper and it just not happen for you. So it doesn't mean that if you go and follow exactly what you're saying today, that's your fast lane to the NHL. That's not what this is. Yeah. So just keep that in mind.
Improve your chances.
Yeah, but just keep that in mind when you're running through the ringer here.
Yeah. So the first thing that I was thinking about is, like, I would hindsight again. So if I could do this all over again, once I got to, well, I would do it earlier than junior, but specifically a couple years before junior, I was the guy that was the MVP of the tournament most times. I was the guy that scored the goals.
In like minor hockey, youth hockey?
Youth hockey. I was the high draft pick. I was getting all the interviews. I was played for Team Ontario, U17, all that kind of stuff. I was in the same. Not that I'm saying we're the same player, but the draft class that I was in was like Brian Fogarty, Brendan Shanahan, Luke Richardson, those guys, right? Mm-hmm. So that's Brian March, but that was my draft class. Adam Graves. So and I was in that mix. Okay. So the first thing I would want to understand is the long game. This is one thing that I really wish I would have understood, because, and I'm not saying like I feel like I was a very hard worker, but was I a hard worker because I was good? And was I working as hard as I possibly could? Because who would have known the difference? Does that make sense?
Let me just. So you're saying, was it that I was just really good, or was it that I worked hard
and liked to do the hockey?
Yeah. Like if the hard work is easy, is it hard work?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah. Right. So, and I don't know the answer, because I did go for runs. I did, like, you know what I mean? I shot pucks a lot. I practiced. It was always hockey, but it wasn't because it was fun. I would do my running. I would do my, working out as best as I knew as a youngster. But so that's one thing. Did I work as hard as I could, or did I do the work because I was having fun? And either way, it could be good, right? But I don't know if I sat there and said, okay, this guy is doing more than me, so I need to do more than him. I don't know if I had that. Like, I'm not saying I didn't or I did. I don't know, because maybe I wasn't aware, right? So that's the one. So talent, the talent was there, the skill was there, the love of the game was there. Okay, but the long game was like, so you're good at 15, 16, or 14. I really, if I can go back, I would do more to understand that it doesn't matter right now, Like it meant like one of my biggest goals was making the under 17 team. I was a young kid making Team Ontario under 17, and I did. And it was almost like I got drafted. I was a high draft pick as an underage. I played as an underage, but it was almost like that was my goal. And looking back, like that was my biggest goal. Why was it my biggest goal? Because the year before was the first time they ever had the World Challenge Cup, and it was real notoriety and stuff. And so that was almost like the goal. And I wanted to play in the NHL, but this was the goal. If I can do that, then it just keeps moving forward. So I hit that goal, and it was almost like, okay, you did that. And it was like, but that's such a short-term goal because at the time of the tournament, I was still only 16 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So now is it over?
Well, here's maybe something that's kind of on a related note. When you could sharpen this up for me, actually. When kids have their OHL interviews, I think one of the questions they ask is, do you want to play in the NHL?
Yeah,
or something?
Some do.
And
or they go, what's your goal?
What's your goal?
What's your plan A? Or do you have a plan B? Like variations of that several times. Yes. Sorry.
So on that thread, it's like, as the kid coming up, is your goal to play in the OHL, or is your goal to play in the NHL? Because that is a way different goal.
Yeah, because now when you're focused on, if you, and that's why I say to all my kids, and I want them to answer it sincerely, like what's do you want to play in the OHL and why? Well, the why should be because I want to get to the National Hockey League. Because if I'm a general manager and I hear, I want to play in the OHL so I can get my school paid for, that's good, but it's not commitment, right? It's like, what is it? Who's more committed, a chicken or a pig? All a chicken has to do is lay an egg. He keeps living. A pig's got to die if you want bacon.
Yeah.
So your commitment is a lot bigger if you want to get to the highest level.
So do you feel like from your perspective, you said you wanted to play in the NHL, and that was a goal, but do you think it was almost like you kind of didn't plan past the OHL almost? Like you thought past it, but you didn't plan.
1,000%. I was working. So okay, so let's stay into this for a second, right? So long term is like, no one told me what, like it was about getting. So I get drafted and I want to play. So I'm in the OHL and I'm at the under 17 and stuff. And my biggest concern was right now. So this was what I'm talking about, the long term. I was like, why am I not like a little baby, but like I want to get on the power play. I want more ice. I'm 16 and I'm less than 5'10" in a jungle that takes time to acclimate to and to get good at, and to get tough enough and all those different things, get strong enough. So in my head, I'm like, I just need to do something tomorrow to get in tomorrow, and it consumed me. Now, if I had the long game in hand, I would sit there, or have a dad like you or me or something like that says, okay, son, like, what's the end goal here? Do you want to play for the Sudbury Wolves or the Hamilton Steelhawks? Is that what you want? Yes. Anything else? Yes, I want to play in the NHL. Okay, so let's have an action plan. Not that it's written out day to day or anything, but the long-term goals, don't sacrifice anything. Like, even if you had to go to junior B for half the year or whatever, to make yourself better, like, even though that's a kick in the teeth with a fist, even though that's a kick in the teeth to your ego, long term, it may be the best thing for you, right? So it's like making those decisions as you're playing, not for the short term game or the short term ego boost, or not to get your ego deflated. It's to make an intelligent decision on what's going to be better for you in 7 years or 6 years or 5.
Yeah,
it's huge.
Oh man, that's such a hard thing to get.
This is really hard. So whose ego are we? And so it's not just your own ego now, right? If you have a mom and dad, which I did, and I'm not saying anything bad about them, but it's like they wanted it now. They didn't know any difference. What does it take? You're a good hockey. You're one of the best hockey players around ever. So, like, you should get your stuff now. It's like, no, it should have been set back and said, okay, what do we need to do? How do you get better? You're not the tallest guy, so you need to maybe be really strong. So the working out and the eating might be a thing. Maybe your skating needs to be better, or your shot needs to be better, or your aware, like not that they would know, but it's figuring things out or putting in place where you can have a long-term plan. So like it would be, so when you go to your first year of junior, or if you're in midget or bantam or whatever it is, and you're playing and things aren't going your way, it's like, okay, what's my long-term plan? So for some kids, it might be, my long-term plan is to play junior B hockey. That's fine. If it might be to play college hockey and get your school paid for, that's fine. It's still the long game that you're looking for. So that would be the number one thing that came to my mind when I started doing this, would be that. And then, because it's not what happens before 18 that matters, but what does matter before you're 18 is the habits that you develop over the years. That's the most important thing, so that you understand that it's long-term thinking. The short term is, it's just, you get through those things, you work hard, but you're making baby steps of progress every day, every week, every month, or something like that, so that at the end of the year you could say, all right, I was 150 pounds and I worked out really hard, and I'm now 155 pounds and I'm in good shape though, and my shot's gotten better or more accurate or whatever that you can say, I measured something and it's better, I'm a better player now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And we talk about just one thing I want to clarify, because we talk about staying in the moment, to focus on the task at hand that you're doing, to make sure that you're not too far in the future, too in the past. We talked about mental toughness stuff before with in a bunch of episodes, and it's like, you can still do that when you're playing your game, right? That's when we're in the moment, we're focusing on the moment,
1000%.
whatever.
It's, and I'm going to get into that after.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm just making the clarification that you can still do that while having that bigger perspective of, my ultimate goal is to be in this place. So it's, on the one hand, when you're doing your tasks, we're focusing on right now, but on the other hand, you still need to have that framework to help guide you more long-term, like you're talking about, right? You need to still have some kind of a long-term plan, as whatever a plan means, to make sure that you're staying on track. And it's not just about today. It's about today. It's about today when you're trying to complete the thing you're doing right now. But when you go home and you're in your bed at night thinking about it, what is guiding you? What framework is guiding you? You know?
So you can say, I want to play in the NHL. That's my end goal. But you can't control that, because that's 5 years away or 10 years away. What you can control is, right now I'm up. Right now I could do something productive and make myself better. When I'm on the ice, I can focus on my shift, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's it being in the moment.
Exactly. So I just want to try to clarify that a little bit.
That's awesome. I'm glad you did. The next thing I just kind of put there before I get real deep is if I actually knew, see, like there's dreams, and then there's, I don't know how I'm saying this, there's wishful thinking and there's actually pursuit of a dream. Okay, so having the talent and all that stuff is one thing. It's almost a curse sometimes to have to talent and skill, because like I said earlier, you don't sometimes know if you're working harder than other people, because it's easy, like rip a puck there. Yeah, what? I shot a lot of pucks and I'm good at it. Whereas someone else has to do it a different way, right? Anyways, if I actually could go back in my 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old self and go to my 25-year-old self and that time in between, and understanding what's at stake, like if everything went well, understanding that you could actually set yourself up for life. And I thought 40 was old before, but you could have a life to do whatever you want and set yourself up well if you do something right one time. You know what I mean? So this is hindsight again. It's not necessarily that you're going to make it, but knowing what I know now, I would put the freaking blinders on. And I know this is a simple statement. I'll get into it a little bit later, but the blinders would be on. And I thought they were on, but you look back and it's like there was a lot of distractions, like our personal life, and it just keeps going out. So, but there, and so having said that, having the blinders on and focusing on this one thing that I had a skill and a passion for, and like nothing else can really matter. Now that might sound selfish, but it's like you actually have to become selfish. George St. Pierre talks about that in his book in GSP, The Way of the Fight. Because in order for me to be a champion, everyone else has to suffer. That's why it wasn't married. He goes, his team, it's all about him succeeding so everybody can get fed. And that's really the mindset I should have had, instead of worrying about how is mom okay? Parents are divorced. Is mom okay? My brother's this. And being a nice person to people, it's like, no, if you just let everybody be adults or grow up and you focus on your thing, then you have a chance. Maybe you can take care of everybody at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
I think that's where I'm gonna throw in my change of terms from, because I don't like the word selfish, because selfish is kind of implying that someone else has to suffer because you're doing your thing. And I don't think that's necessarily what it is. I feel like it's more the uncompromising word is what I
that's a
like,
good word.
because
Sure. It's longer too.
yeah, well, it sounds smarter. Well, and I think it's more that, because you're not doing something that where you're trying to, it's not costing someone else. You're doing something that's going to hurt somebody else so that it's making you, progress further or something like that. It's not, and I feel like selfish kind of comes with that bit of assumption. Like you have to do something that will negatively impact someone else to progress yourself. And I don't think that's necessarily how it is. It can be that, but I don't think it necessarily has to be that. I think it's more like these are the decisions I'm making, and this is what it has to be for me to achieve this goal. The fact that someone else has to suffer alongside of that doesn't necessarily have to be the case, though
Right.
it can be.
I agree with you.
Yeah, because it depends how you think about it, right? It's like maybe you have to miss the family party because you need to make sure you get to bed on time, or you're not allowed to. You can't hang out with your girlfriend as much as you want because you need to focus on hockey. And it's like, so maybe in a sense that's where you could say selfish because somebody else doesn't get a piece of you, but from your own perspective, it's like, I'm just not willing to compromise. Like, I'll fit these other things in a way that works, but I don't want it to be something that takes away from what my goal is, kind of thing. So I just like that term better, I think.
Yeah. No, I like that. That's good. Is that helpful? I could beat a dead horse here. I'm not going to do that.
Yep.
This is like me knowing me, or no, this is me looking back and realizing, and I knew it back then, I was a mental midget, not because I chose to be. We had a lot of emotions at home. And then as far as hockey and stuff goes, there wasn't a lot of guidance. So anyways, it would be dialing in mentally. Okay. And this is also my life when I was done hockey and not having a clue what to do, where I went into a self-improvement, really dug deep within myself to find out who I actually am, and I still don't necessarily know, but I know that I've got some grit, and I know that I dug deep, and I'm a much more stable, better person, intelligent, and like you say all the time, no one would look at me and say that you were ever insecure or you were ever shy, but I was. But the work that I did on myself mentally and believing in myself and just digging myself out of not the gutter, because I wasn't homeless with a shopping cart, but like, I mean, just like, what the hell is your purpose in life, dude?
Yeah.
Right? Like, hockey's done, and so if I could go back, I would really dial in mentally, and this is advice I would give to most people or everybody, that if you're going to do something that requires any form of success or requires any form of sacrifice, or that's a big challenge, whatever, is that if you're not mentally dialed in, you will not do it.
So
Or you won't sustain it. Okay.
yeah. So what? Let's be a little more specific about that. What do you mean? What do you mean by dial in mentally? So
Okay.
like, are we talking specific mental tools to deal with adversity? Are we talking about dealing with distractions? Are we talking like what
all
kind
of
of
it.
stuff? Yeah.
All of it. All of it. It's so, like I said before, it's like, okay, number one, knowing what you want. Right. I want this more than anything, and then understand, do I actually? And can I be critical of myself? Can I look in the mirror and say, you did it or you didn't?
Mm-hmm.
It's really important. Is it looking in the mirror and saying, you were scared yesterday? You were scared. And that's just being honest with yourself,
So yeah, some
right?
honesty in there
Some
too.
honesty in there. It's like, are you pretending? All those little things, like emotionally, and just being honest with yourself. I think that's number one. And then from the actual mental side of it, it's like, we talk about it all the time, but I don't really know if people really do this as a whole. Is number one is, I really, really, really wish I understood controlling what I could control. Okay. And everyone's got their own issues. Like, let's say people's home lives. Maybe you come from a rich family and you're a spoiled brat and you just get everything you want, and then you go to the hockey world and you don't. And you expect that. And then if you don't understand, well, if I was at home, if I had this is what, you're not in the moment, man. You're not in the moment. And if you have your issues at home where you've got a poor family life and you're not sure what you're going to eat that day and stuff. It's like, okay, you can't control that necessarily. What you can control is what you're doing. So that understanding, owning your moment, and controlling what you can control, to me, through experience and dealing with people, and it just really does make sense. Once you do that, living in the moment and controlling what you can control, and like just getting rid of those distractions, to me, life makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
To me, pressure's gone. So you're not worrying about, right? Like, let's go through just my head. Okay. Am I big enough? Say 5'9.5", 5'10". I'm big enough. Am I big enough? Like, oh man, these guys are big. These guys are big, and dealing with that situation every day. Well, who cares? Who cares? But as you think about, is your size going to be sufficient? Scouts see, like, man, I look a little bit shorter than a lot of the guys. Like, I look on the smaller end. Are they going to worry about that? Like, that's out of my control. All I can do is take my 5'9.5" frame and play hard. That's all you can do. That's what I can control. The other thing I control with that is I can control how strong that body is, right? I can work out and I can do all the things that, and mobility and all that stuff, to make that not 5'9.5" body the best that it can be. That's it. It's the big game. It's not a big game, man. It's not a big game. It's just a game. It's the same thing. So what can you control? You can control your shifts. You can't control anything else. You can't control the coach. If I truly, truly, truly understand that, there would be zero pressure. The scouts, the press, all this stuff, there's no pressure.
Yeah. Do you think, this is maybe a little bit of a side tangent, but do you think it's actually possible for kids to understand this? This is my thing, because so just two sides. So one, to me, I'll just give my thought and then you go. To me, I don't think it's that kids, because there's an element of it that's a maturity thing, where it's like, as you get older, you start to have some more perspective, and you realize that the world doesn't revolve around you. It's not all about you. And some of those things start to set in a little bit deeper as you start to get older. But when you're in those like 14 to 20-year-old years, when you start to become an adult and you think you got everything figured out and you don't, and all that, is it possible to understand this? And I think part of it is that, a huge part of it is that it isn't taught to the kids. Like, no one explains these things. I don't remember anyone ever in hockey that I ever was connected with, besides my parents, talking to me about this kind of stuff ever.
And you were lucky if you had your
And I
parents
was
to do
lucky.
that.
Yeah, because here
You're
you are
very
saying you
fortunate.
didn't have that, right?
Oh,
So
how do you? But it's, and to your point, is how many people can actually give you advice when they don't have that tool themselves?
exactly,
Right.
And so
If you plant corn, you get corn.
yeah, yeah. Well, because
It's true.
but that's my question. So it's like, for a part of it is definitely that kids are kids and they're immature and they need time to process. But I think a lot of it is really just the kids aren't taught. They're not told the information, so they don't have a chance.
Right. It's learn as you go, and it's fine. But like, for a kid, for kids that don't have a lot of support or whatever, I mean, you put these words on a piece of paper, or stamp it on your forehead, or say it 500 times a day, or everything you do is, what can I control? When things are good, what can I control? What am I doing now? I'm bored, whatever. What's my, like, what is my goal? Or it doesn't even have to be that, right? Like, shit happens in life, and it throws you for it's a sledgehammer across the head, and you go, what the hell? I didn't see that coming. And then what happens is you stew on it, and you sit there and you think about it, and the problem becomes a bigger problem. And everybody, I think, not everybody, but I think most people go there and go, son of a bitch, why did that have to happen? And you have a little shit your pants party, right? But the key is to get out of your shit your pants party, and it's to say, what can I do about it, or what can I do right now? Because the problem only gets bigger in your head. So if a kid can learn, and listen, when you tell a kid, I know it's just words, but you see, people say it just so flippantly all the time. The motivational little words or whatever, that's flippant. But if you take the time to sit down and talk to a kid and explain it to them, they actually will start to get it. Now, that's not to say a 14, 16, or 18-year-old kid, when the coach is an asshole to him, they're getting benched, telling him that, you can only control what you can control. So what can you control? And it's that 3 shifts a game. That doesn't make them necessarily happy, but you're giving them the basic tools to deal with a problem. And if they hear it over and over and over again, it will at some point. It doesn't mean it happens at the first week. It'll at some point they're going to say, yeah, all I can do is actually control what I can control. So that's the one thing. So if I was a kid, if I was me back in the day, and if I heard those words and wrote it down and asked every time I did something, or when things went good or bad, or when I was thinking about something in the future or thinking something in the past, I'd say, what can I control about this? Like, what can I do right now about this? And it's like, do something to get yourself out. And if you hear that, control what you can control over and over and over, then that becomes almost your first question. I've gotten better at it in the last 5 years because I've actually really focused on it. And it's eliminated a lot of issues, because it's like, problems aren't necessarily problems. Not saying that there's no problems, but dealing with it or taking ownership immediately in what you can control changes a lot of things.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I just had an example that, with, kids being able to actually grasp some of this stuff. Like, I had a kid yesterday that was here to work out. He's 13. And last summer, so just think, this is the brain of a kid, right? It's so interesting to me. So last summer, we had a conversation right here when we're in our shoot the shit corner. And we were talking about when kids are walking around with a backpack all the time, right? So we were talking about when it's Friday night, you're at a hockey game, and there's a pack of kids walking around, and they all got backpacks. And it was like a half joking, half serious thing where we're just kind of like, what do you have in your backpack? Like, why do you need a backpack right now? Like, what's in there? And so we had like a couple kids in here that are around that age where that would be something, the 13, 14, 15, 16, where their parents let them go to the mall on Friday nights now, or they go to the movies, or they go to a hockey game or whatever. And our point was basically, not that this is always true, we're not saying it's always true, but there's just like something sketchy about a group of kids all with backpacks. So it's kind of like our half joking, half serious conversation, right? So just yesterday, that was last summer, okay? So just yesterday, this one kid that was in that conversation, he said, Eric, I was at wherever he was the other day, and he's like, and I get what you mean about the backpacks, right?
Yeah.
He's like, I saw this group of guys walking around that were a little bit older than me, and it was just like, I was a little nervous, like, around the guys. Like, they're walking around on a Friday night, whatever. It's like, what do they do? And he's like, and they're all like vaping and stuff, and they all have backpacks.
Got to put things there.
Yeah, right? And so it was just funny that the kid, this was last year that I talked about this. I forgot about the conversation. And I mean, it is kind of a bit of a running joke we have with the backpack thing, but it wasn't something that we constantly are talking about. And this is what I'm saying with the kids, man, is like, you don't know what, if you actually take the time, like you said, to have a conversation, you're actually talk to them and serious. You're not just throwing the meaningless motivational sayings at them. It's like, you're actually having a serious conversation where you're trying to connect with the kid. Like, that was a conversation I had last summer, and this kid just brought it up yesterday. So that means that stuck with that kid since last summer, because he brought it up to me,
Dude,
So
it's very, very, very impactful when you show. So for parents and coaches, it's like very, very, very impactful when you take time and talk to a kid. You do a great job with our kids in here, because it sticks, man. Some of it sticks. But I can't tell you, like, just this week I've had 3, 4 dads just stop in and said, I remember when you told Jackson when he was 8 years old, just make the team. Don't worry about the other stuff. And he goes, it's sat with him. Another one was saying about, because he was a smaller kid, he goes, just play because you love it, this, that, and the other thing. And then and it stuck with the kid, because I don't know. It's because and there's a lot, and I've got players, and this because you've told me this yourself, that it's come back. So I remember you told me this one time. You said this to me.
Many of those with
right.
you. Yeah.
So it's like what, and I do remember most of it because it's just the way I speak or whatever. But it's not because necessarily I'm so smart at all. That's not what it is. It's the old saying that if you show me, don't tell me how much you know. No, right? Or how does it go? It's people don't know. People don't care how much you know. until they know how much you care about them.
Mm-hmm.
So by taking 5 minutes with a random kid and actually asking certain little things and maybe giving them an advice, but giving it to them, not just throwing shit out, they realize this guy cares about me. And they might not say it like that, but it's like, okay, he gave me something, and it sticks.
Mm-hmm.
So when parents, and I mean, you had kids, man, you brought them into the world. When you bring kids into the world, or if you're coaching a team, it's like I feel like it's not good enough just to say, here's your spaghetti, and then go there, you got your bed and off.
Yeah.
I think it's a little more important to go deep with them and try to make them the best humans ever, and that's as a coach as well. So when a parent or a coach sits down with a kid and kid goes, yeah, like I'm not getting ice time, I don't think I'm gonna make the team, the coach this, the coach this, coach this. The easiest thing to do as a parent is, yeah, it's bullshit. Because I'm a parent, I know that's the easy thing to do. The hard thing to do, or the right thing to do, or anything that's good in life takes a little bit of work, is to sit there and say, okay, Eric, okay, so we got all these issues. I know, I feel for you. Okay, I do, I really do, and it hurts me to see you hurt. But let's really look at it, and it's like, what can we do? What can we do? What can we control about this? Like the coach, this, that, the other, and you break it down for the kid. We're in this together. We're gonna work through this together, and I'm gonna help you, son. I'm gonna freaking help you get through this. And you might look at me like, yeah, Dad, but you don't understand. But I'm there, and you got the message, and we're gonna hear it over and over, and it actually makes sense. Does it not?
Yeah.
I don't care if you're two. Well, well, not two. But if you're, once you can reason, two.
Can't even hear what you're saying.
They don't even know. But once you get to an age where like the kid could have some reasoning and say like, okay, can you do 10 push-ups today? Yeah. If you could do that, you're going to be solving a problem. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. For sure.
So, anyways.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so all the mental side of it, that would be big. I learned mindset, all the details about that. I would really, hindsight again, it would be like being a young player is like learn, and earn. Like I'd really have that drilled into my head. It's like you don't get anything. There's no freebies. There's no feeling sorry for yourself. You have to learn something first. That could be the game, the mental side, whatever, and then earn trust, earn your spots on the team.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely, now this is different. I don't know, just probably ignorance at the time, probably out of my control, or not knowing any different. I would get around more pros. I would find a way to get around more pros. Like Mike Foligno used to walk around. I used to go to the gym that he owned a little bit, but I don't know if it didn't feel like he was approachable. Don't know if it was, I was too nervous, or I didn't have the right questions, or I didn't want the right
Sorry,
questions.
whose gym did you say?
Mike Foligno.
Mike Foligno.
Yeah. He was like one of my, like, that's from Sudbury, Ontario. That was one of the guys, man. It's like Mike Foligno. Like, wow. He walked like I'd see him just walking. I'd be like, I'd like to walk like that.
Yeah.
No, seriously.
Is he related to the Foligno?
Yeah, it's his kids.
Oh, it's his kids.
Yeah.
Cool.
Plant corn, you get corn.
Yeah. Seriously.
Right?
Yeah.
No, seriously.
Yeah.
So like Mike Foligno was like that was wow, Mike Foligno. So, but what I would do if I could do this all over again is I'd get around more pros. You want to get as much information from the people that you can. So like the way I do a lot of things when I was trying to help myself later in life was getting around the most successful people that I possibly could, which I couldn't get to. So I'd read books on them and learn their habits and stuff. But if you can get around them so you can see, okay, you're normal. Oh my God, they work hard or they don't. Like there's some guys that were just talented, but being around them more and more and more, and just being able to ask questions, because you know what, guys do help. But you would see a young guy come around that's hungry and that's actually pretty good, you'll get the help. I didn't know that, man. I was shy and all that stuff, but where do you find them? But you go and seek it, right? So that's something that I would do. Pick their brains, learn the little details about hockey, and find out where they work out. Like and I know they're all good. Not all. Mike Foligno was a good human being, but if I would have like knocked on his door or found him at rinks and stuff like that, and asked him questions, I guarantee he would have helped me. I just didn't know any better.
Yeah, and so two things. One is people normally like to help people. You get the odd pro guy that thinks they're the best ever and will tell you to piss off, and that sucks. But for the most part, guys, people are pretty open to helping. It feels good to help people. So when you go and ask someone a question, they want to help. But I found that for most of the guys that we have had around here, most of the pro guys, none of them are like, there's a time and a place. Obviously, don't be obnoxious when they're in the middle of a set of squats that you ask them for an autograph. But if you're genuinely asking them when the time's right and you approach them, most guys are able and they want to help.
Well, like back then, the gyms weren't the same as they were now, but it could have been just simply like, yeah, I do a lot of running. One of the next things, if it was me being the pro or me being the way I'm with kids now, it's like, I'm going to the hill tomorrow if you want to come. What? I can run with you? One guy that Sudbury Wolves did that. We used my neighbor, right? I remember to this day. Remember he bought me a chocolate milk after. I remember the socks he was wearing. I remember everything about it. His hairy legs. I was like, I'm running with a guy that plays for the Sudbury Wolves, and I'm 10. Wow. So like little things like that, yeah, they would be helpful. So you got to seek it though. You don't know.
Well, and this goes. Maybe I don't want to jump the gun, but maybe the more general point of that is like, yeah, you want to be on pros, but it kind of goes into you want to be in a good environment in general. So I don't know if I'm maybe jumping the gun on you.
I got it later, but
well, whatever. So this is one thing that
go ahead.
We were talking about this a couple weeks back. We had a meeting with some parents, and we were talking about some skill development stuff, and their kids are young, so they're just starting to be introduced to PowerTech and kind of the stuff that we do here and whatever. And I remember we were talking, and one of the guys asked the question of, well, like kind of like, what do you guys offer that's different than this guy that also does skills and stuff like that? And we didn't end up getting into enough detail to answer the question, but the way I would answer that question is, it's not just about skills. It's not just about practice. It's not just about working out. It's not just about your eating. It's about everything. And it's about having the environment all the time, or as much of the time as you can get there. Because we talk about it all the time. You become the people that you hang out with. Whoever is in your circle, you're going to start to be more like them. You can fight it as much as you want. You're going to start to be like the people you're with. So if you're mostly with people that are doing hockey things or doing sports things or doing self-improvement things or have good habits or whatever, it doesn't just have to be a hockey player or a pro hockey player or whatever. If you're just in an environment where everything that you're getting all day is going to contribute to you getting to where you want to go, that's a place you want to be in. And that's the difference. That's the difference when you get into a high quality place that has a culture where that is the norm, as opposed to, I go to this gym just to do a workout, or I just go to this skills coach to work on my skills. The environment piece is huge. And I think that's kind of the underlying principle. Obviously, there's way more juice you can get when it's guys that are pros. But if, like you said,
or junior.
Yeah, or junior. But like you said, you wanted to be around successful people and you didn't have access. So you created a virtual or an artificial environment, and that's something else. That's a way that you can do that. But that's the kind of the greater point, is put yourself in if you could go back and do it again, you would put yourself in that environment as much as possible.
Immerse yourself in it, because really nothing else matters when you look back at it, right? And then you see the little habits, like just to talk about what you're saying. It's like the guys that come and work here. There's been a couple guys that started working here, and it didn't take them but a week or two before they changed their eating habits.
Seriously,
who the hell's coming in here with a 12-inch sub when everybody else is eating cut up chicken or whatever on salad or veggies, and it's like, oh, everyone eats healthy here. You don't fit in. So it's just like osmosis, if that's the right term.
Yeah. Same with the workouts, man.
Yeah. Same with the workouts. The kids just start seeing, it might even be the style of clothing for a lot of the times, but people just kind of transition to being, just to fit in. It's cool to have a journal and write down your workouts. It's cool to drink water all day. It's like, you see the boys eating, and it's like the kids want to eat like that. So it's like all healthy stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And then you see the older guys working out like hard, and everyone's going, wow, okay, I want to do that too. Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about this place, is that we'll have some NHL guys here, or we'll have some OHL college guys here working out or mingling with other kids, and people look up to them and go, wow. And then they see the work ethic, and it's like, that's what you want.
Well, it's even after the workout last night, and before, we hung out for 15 minutes and are throwing the football around in the gym here, right? And the boys are asking me about, like, one of the kids, while we're just tossing the football around, one of the kids goes, like, how could you be not good at fighting? Like, talking about hockey fights. And so I was saying to him, not that I'm not the hockey fight expert, but I was just saying it's harder than you think, man. He's like, yeah, but like your face is so big. Like, how can you miss when you're in like these kind of comments, just little kid things that they don't know yet, you know? And now we're talking hockey. We're talking different elements of being tough, or different elements of how you get through games and whatever. And it's they're hanging out. They're not in a rigorous mental training meeting, you know. It's just, we're just hanging out, and that's what they're doing instead of at the skate park with their backpack.
Yeah.
You know, and it's an important thing, man.
Yeah. Well, it was just funny yesterday in between sets. I went to a couple of kids because they weren't here last week. Say, hey, boys, how you doing? Like, laughing and joking, and they come up, hey, coach, whatever. Hey, I'm working on that shot that you were working on. And he goes, I'm in my basement, blah 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 blah, doing this. And the other one goes, yeah, that was good. Like, I started getting it. Did you notice it? And it's like, yeah, dude. So, and it's like, it just reinforces, look, you know, the whole thing. It's awesome. Couple more things here. I'm not sure if this is mental or not, but I would know that at the junior level and above anyways, that I would outlast the coaches. So don't worry too much about them. Like when you're younger, that might be a different story, but know that if you're a good enough hockey player, you get through it, right? Coaches are there for a shorter time than you probably will be. It's amazing when you look back, you know, you go into this. I remember in junior, and now I would know in hindsight, when they come across as this gruff, know-it-all, you shut up, I speak, I'm smart, you're dumb, all that kind of stuff, I could just compartmentalize that easily now. It's like, okay, you're insecure, you actually don't know as much as you act like you do. In fact, anyways.
Well, sorry, I want to jump in on that for a second, because there's two sides to that too. It's not even just the negative, it's also a really positive coach. So because I remember my first coach in junior he was the best, man, and I was like his go-to guy. It was awesome, and I started to feel dependent on the coach, which that's not good either, because the coach is gonna go. So at the junior level, that coach that I had ended up moving on to other things. So at some point, even that great situation is gonna be over. So don't be so excited about one positive situation, because you know that's also gonna be over, you know. And then the flip side, I had the same thing with my third coach in junior, which, think of this too, right? Like in 4 years, I had 4 coaches in junior, right? So it's not going to be the same coach all the time.
Pretty normal, bud.
I know. So my last year, I thought, so on the one hand, I had my first coach. It was like, this is the best. This guy's going to set me up as my hockey career up. Like, he's such a good resource. He's really promoting me and giving me all this opportunity. Then he was gone. That sucks. Go to another team. And I thought this coach was an absolute goof. Like, I don't have one good thing to say about this guy. And I thought at the time, I'm like, this guy's going to ruin my hockey career. He's taking away all my opportunity. He's not giving me, and like, why am I giving my coach that much power? Because they don't have that much. I'm just giving them that much based on my attitude, right? So either way, whether it's positive or negative, don't be too excited either way, you know? Yeah,
100%. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I would say, so like at the junior level and up, like I'm talking about, like from my career was like I know I'm going to outlast them if I choose to, and I can see now in hindsight, I can see you for what you are now. You're self-serving mostly. These are my junior coaches. I can say this 100%. Self-serving. They're looking to move up to another level, and they'll do whatever they can for them. And I realize that the coaches I had in junior, they didn't give 2 rips about me or anybody else, unless you could help them. Just like most people, like, it's life. It's just I realize that's a business, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the one thing I would say. And then so knowing that kind of stuff, you can just flip the script on them, right? You do what you need to do to make them happy. Be a team player. Do all the right things, but just find out what their real motive is. And if it's like, if you're 5 foot, or if you're 6'4" and the guy's an old meathead guy, then go run people. You get ice. Mm-hmm. If he's the opposite of that, just find out what presses his buttons and then do what he does to flip the script. But you would never be like, but knowing all the stuff, I would never be intimidated by that crazy ass coach that I thought was nuts. Yeah, not even for a second now.
With that too, just as a little aside, you mentioning the business thing, because that's becomes a reality when you start to play junior, and even at in some places, even the higher levels of AAA, maybe it's structured a little bit like that too, where it's a little bit more businessy. Like the coach wants to move on, he's getting paid, and there's a little more
Well,
dynamics at the U15, U16 level.
yeah, for sure. But I was just talking to someone yesterday, and he was talking about, and I didn't know this about one of the Toronto teams, and I guess it's kind of common. The teams are owned, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like one organization is owned by you,
Yeah.
and then if I want the Bantam team, it's $50,000, and you charge people whatever you want. It's a business,
Right. So because of that, like this is another thing, right? This is actually a Jocko principle. He was talking about how you have to play the game, and if you know that it's a business, or you know that it's going to be run like a business, whether to whatever degree that's true, then play into the business. Instead of bitching and complaining and, oh, this is bullshit, and what, like, it is what it is. It's out of your control. You can talk about the things you can control. It's like, if it's a business and it's run like a business, then where would you fit into this as a business? That means you have to do something that makes the business want to keep you there, even if it's a high level AAA thing. And this is where parents can be helpful, because kids don't understand this. So where would they fit? Like you said, if the coach wants crash and bang, be crash and bang. If the coach wants, you better never dump the puck in, don't dump it in. Play into the strength of the business, because that's what's ultimately going to help you. That's what's going to help the team function properly, and it's going to help you to progress. So instead of bitch and complain about the business thing, because you can do that, like, you can make a case for it all you want, like, but it's not helpful.
No, it's not helpful at all, for sure. So the last thing I would say about that, like I'm going on the mental side, or I think, um, is for the coaches again, is like, God, this has helped my son so much. Do not listen to the tone, listen to the message. Doesn't matter how they say something, what tone they're using. The bottom line is they're giving you a message. Whether you understand the message. And if they say it very nicely or softly or loudly, or they kick the garbage can while they're doing it, or if they rip their shirt off and they show you how crazy they are, it's still the same words in different tones. Just listen to the message.
Yeah.
You suck today. You need to be tougher. Okay. Whether he's right, whether he lost it when he said that, you suck today. Okay. I'm not playing well. You need to be tougher. Okay. I need to do something might have to hit someone, whatever. Right. You suck today. You haven't gone to the net once. Okay. I need to get to the net. That's it. That's simple. Take the emotion out of it. Yep. When you learn how to do that, it becomes a lot easier.
That's a really good tool.
Yeah. So, anyways, finish this off. In hindsight, I'd for sure go to practice. I wouldn't show up to the practice or workout or anything like that. Just showing up as we'll get through this. It's like there'd be a definite purpose, and I'd be able to compartmentalize that there's no such thing as a big game. They're all the same. It's just another game. That's keeping things in the moment. That's keeping perspective. That's just mental toughness number one. And definitely would read more books. Now, I read a lot of, when I was about 14, 15 on, I used to read a lot of autobiographies, like Gordie Howe, whatever, Sutter Brothers, all that stuff. I would have did more of that, but I would have, hindsight, not smart enough back then, to read how to have my brain work better, to be mentally tougher, and just have that. Yep. Yeah. All right. So that's that part. In my junior career, one of the things that I wish I would have done better is not worry about fitting in the room. This is a huge thing, because you want to be liked. The guys are older. You want to fit in. You want to be one of the guys. Like, that's 100%. But what I realize is that, especially now, well, and I would say you can look at this on your U16, U14, whatever. Most guys aren't going anywhere, like, as far as making it to whatever level. Most guys aren't. So I went into that first dressing room in the OHL. I was looking at guys that were drafted first, second, third round picks, fourth round picks. We had a lot of draft picks, and some of them were dialed in, and most of them weren't. And yeah, and the couple first rounders, like, it's like, holy shit, eighth or ninth overall was the first one. Oh, that's an early pick. It's like, and he was our captain. And it's like, we all want to be like him. Like, I wanted him to like me. but like he drank every night. You know, he was doing everything I didn't know hockey players did at the time. I was 16. You know what? The biggest thing for me, and I would suggest to any kid, is don't worry about that guy. He's not going to be your best friend, most likely. He's 5 years older or 4 years old. He's probably not going to be your best friend anyway. He doesn't really want to hang out with a little kid. What he would care about is that you show up and play, and that's the most important thing. But it doesn't even matter because of all those guys, I think one of those older guys played in the NHL, Jeff Brown.
Yeah, I think the only caveat I'll throw on that is that doesn't mean to purposely be a dork in the room. Okay, so you need to know, again, you have to know how to read the situation. So when guys are doing things that obviously are not optimal, even if they're the leadership of the team, even if they're the cool guys, even if they're whatever, that's the stuff you want to try to avoid. And it's going to be pressure, man. Like, it's going to be a lot of pressure to try to get you into that. You have to do the best you can to resist that. That doesn't mean be combative towards those guys. And that's important because if you don't need to fit in with those guys, but
you need your buddies.
But you need your buddies.
And you need to be a good team.
You need
guy.
to be part of the team.
Yes, 100%.
Right? Because anyone who's the guy that never ever has a drink ever, or never hangs out with the boys, or never is like so dialed in that it's annoying, then you start to be not part of the team.
You're not part of the team. And guys may not even back you up in certain situations, exactly. And you don't have friends for the rest of your life. And part of the experience is having buds.
Yeah, and part of it is like you can be super dialed in and stay private about some of it. That's the other thing, right? Like there's the kid, because there's a lot of guys that would be like, man, you guys are such idiots because all you do is drink all the time. And though your point is correct, they don't need to be drinking all the time. You saying you guys are a bunch of idiots, I don't like you because you drink all the time, when they're your teammates, now that's causing a conflict in the team. So you can think that, but you still have to know how to play the game with the teammates here, right? So don't outcast yourself from the team either. You know, so you don't 100%. Have to fit, but don't outcast yourself.
Yeah, but what I'm saying mostly is like, okay, like it goes back to what we were saying before. Is be uncompromising in your time,
right,
and your beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is like things like when you get to the rink, it's game time or it's practice time. Yes, you horse around, you do your things, but do you do that at the expense of not getting a dynamic warm up in?
Exactly.
No. Do you do that at the expense of maybe you could have been on the ice 15 minutes to shoot or do some edge work? No, that's dumb. Do you do it at the expense of hurrying up to go to the restaurant and have a bite to eat at the expense of getting your workout in and doing all those things? That's what I'm talking about, is to be uncompromising.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then having the brains to say, okay, there is a time and a place where I'm with the boys and doing the stuff with the team stuff, which I exactly what you said. If the guy that never went out with the boys, like I don't even want you on my team, man. Like, we got to be able to talk and horse around or have some serious conversations. Whatever it is that you are. So, like, I remember one guy on our team, a couple guys that stick out. Robbie Graham got traded to us, and he was my winger, big 6. He was drafted to the Rangers, big 6'4" nerd. I loved him. Nerd. Like, that's all the time. But if it was a little bit cold out, his glasses, his toque, his mitts. And we used to laugh a little bit. It's like, man, settle down. It's like, but he was intelligent. He goes, well, if I don't dress warm, I'm going to be freaking cold, you idiots.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He'd have his homework. He'd do like you, do his homework. And it was like, some guys would be like, okay, Robbie, like, and I respect it. It's like, I wish I could do that, actually. And it was like, I wish there was actually more guys like you, so that when I pull out my book that I actually want to learn something from, no one's like carving me about it. Right? Alistair Still was another one, real tough kid too, and a school guy, right? And he always used to wear the Table Elements shirt.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, but it's really bright guy, yeah. and it's like he was a little bit different, but it's like he was himself though, right? He could just be himself, and I like guys like that can just fit in and be themselves. It's like not trying to fit into the team, like so that you're not you. You know, be yourself, man. There's no better person than yourself. Like I always tell this to kids when they ask me about stuff. I go, you know, who the coolest guy in the room is it's you. Just be the coolest guy. Just be yourself. Not you. It's not you. It's the guy who can just be himself. and that's how you can just fit in.
Yeah, and do that. And like I mentioned this last week too, is don't make it hard for people to want to be your teammate, right? Because that will negatively impact you. So at the same time as you want to be yourself and all that, and you want to get along with everybody and all that, but that doesn't mean you have to compromise your goals or what you're trying to be as an individual. You know.
Yeah. So that's that. So then the next thing, as I would say, is find the most dedicated guys and spend time with them. We kind of talked about that earlier. So hopefully you can find a guy on the team, whether you're a 16-year-old guy or a 20-year-old guy on a junior team, that wants to get there early. Like hurry up from school and let's get on the ice early. Cool. That's what I want. Stay late. Let's get our workout in. Let's make sure we get stronger. That's what you want. So if you're in youth hockey, well, how do you do that? You don't have a car, you can't do things. We'll try to find the guys that you can see. For me, and I think you would agree with this, is like, for me, when especially dialed into sports, and even today, I love it when I have a day where it's like we worked out and then we went and played catch and then we did physical things, because that's what I like to do. And if you can keep someone that has a high high goals, or like what am I trying to say? High.
I don't know.
It's a sentence. What?
I don't know what you're trying
someone
to say.
that has
Like
high
aspirations,
high aspirations, and high ambition, and trying to do the same thing. Then you're in a great place. You're not going to get yourself in shit. And if you do, you're with the right person that'll back you up, and they'll know when to stop. Right. The next thing that is really, really important to me is and also realize that most guys are insecure. So when you're sitting in your dressing room, especially at the junior level, when you have the older guys and stuff like that, we used to sit there, and Hamilton Steelhawks are coming into town, Peterborough Petes are coming down. You just start naming off, there's this idiot, this idiot, this idiot. They got 8 guys that are going to take our heads off. But you know what the Peterborough Petes are doing and the Hamilton Steelhawks are doing? These guys have this guy, this guy, this guy. Everyone's the same, and everyone's insecure. Not everyone, but like there's an insecurity, and everyone has doubts and all this kind of stuff. And just realize that everybody has that, and that stay in the moment and do your thing. So
yeah, I think putting the human on everyone is important. Like people say a lot, like they put their pants on just like you and all that kind of thing. And it's true. People can cliche it, but there's a reason it's a cliche, right? Because it's actually true. You got guys that they think the way you guys think, and you've been through a trade, I've been through a trade, and you go into the other room and it's the same conversations, it's the same themes, it's the same exact type of dialogue. And it's a guy that 2 weeks ago when you were on the other team, you thought this guy was an absolute savage, man. And you come in, it's like, oh, he's just
a nice guy.
Yeah, nice guy.
Just like a good guy that plays hard and has some balls, or doesn't, or pretends he does. And yeah, man, you see it.
The insecurity thing plays into a bit of that social pressure in the room too, because a lot of times the loudest guy on the team is the most insecure guy, so the guy that always has the really cool story of this crazy thing he did, or the guy that talks about girls all the time, or drinking all the time, or all the extracurriculars,
jokes all the time,
or always carving guys, or rookie this, rookie that, like these kind of guys. Just that's another one of those. Be able to ignore the tones of the way people are talking, because everybody has their insecurities and their hangups. And again, that doesn't mean you have to go be combative against this person because they bug you, but just those kind of guys, just identify that all that kind of stuff normally comes from insecurity.
100%, man. Cool. I like that. So real important here, if I could go back, is there wasn't a lot. You had to go on the VCR tape thing that they did, but I would study me like crazy, study the game like crazy. Like I would go back and watch film. I'd watch my video of every game. I try to get practice or whatever, just see little habits and stuff like that, because your videos don't lie. So you can see where, watch a game from, just watch it and just say, do I like that player? Right. So if you like what you see, that's kind of good. And then look at it like, what could I have done better? And just analyze the shit out of it. Like, could I have got there harder? Am I working too hard here? Could learn how to cut angles off, learn how to back check properly. Like, that shot was good, but took too long to release. Like, there's so many things you can learn from video. So I would say study yourself, because it won't lie. And if you can actually look at it objectively and not say, yeah, but none of that shit. Be honest with yourself. Like we said earlier, the thing, if you can look at yourself and be honest and say, no, that wasn't good. You can pretend that your D zone was good, but that wasn't good. Like you flamingoed there, and you needed to, you chickened out or whatever, right?
Yeah, 100%.
It's a big difference. And then break down. It gives you the ability to break down your weaknesses if you're willing to admit them, right? So it could be whatever the weakness is, it doesn't matter, but you can see your face offs, you can see you didn't hold a guy up, whatever it is, you can see it, and you can work on your freaking weaknesses.
Yep.
Right?
Yep, for sure.
I'm almost done. Truly understand what being a team player is and knowing roles. So like we said last week or the podcast before, is like I don't know if people really understand what being a team player is, and it's not only the team, but it's being your best version of yourself and contributing to the team. And it's like knowing what the team needs and when they need it is very, very important. So like I would look like at roles included in that. It's like, okay, so like in my instance, I was like a very offensive player. I had a couple 100 points when I was drafted. So I assume that that's my goal, is to score goals, but it's a different league now. So like if I would have known, like in hindsight, it's a special person to go in the NHL and play and get points. So what else can I do? So like understanding roles would be, you can put the puck in the net. How are you defensively? Like, so I would look at my game again and I'd say, okay, as much as you have the skill on the offensive side and the vision and all that stuff, it's like you need to be twice as good at that in your D zone. What is the D zone? It's your face offs. It's your unrelentless work in your own zone. It's like not giving an inch. It's taking hits. It's getting pucks out. It's managing the game properly. It would be backtracking the right way. All those things that you actually may become a specialist. So now what happens is what you thought your strength was as goal scoring and stuff, which becomes tougher and tougher as you get older. And think about it. I shouldn't say people don't take pride in it, but it's less glamorous. And as you grow up, parents don't reward guys for winning faceoffs or doing the unglamorous stuff.
Yeah.
So you grow up kind of like the stars, and the most important thing is scoring goals. But if you can actually take the defensive side and just build your game around that, then your offensive side comes anyways. So I really, 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 really would have understood that, and realizing that as the role of a team player, like if I'm very good defensively, I'm going to get my ice, and someone else might get the power play and stuff, and that's okay because I'm doing my job, and it might earn me a spot to the next place. In fact, it would earn you a spot more often than not than the other way around.
Yeah, so, for sure, man.
Yeah. Anything for you?
No, I'm good with that one.
Okay, so just physically, last thing for me, if I go back to my things, my skills were good. If I said I should have worked harder on my skills and stuff, like, no, they were good. And by doing extra work and stuff, they could have got better, I guess. But as much as I shot pucks, I'd shoot more because I don't think you could ever have a good enough shot because you could shoot from different angles and stuff. So that's one thing. Last thing is physically, can't do anything about not being 6'2". So that was one maybe downfall, but I could have made myself just like a actual fire hydrant, like a statue.
Yeah.
And if I can go back in hindsight, I would dedicate a lot more time into working the legs, doing more hill work, squatting, track work, and stuff like that, and then working my backside. Like everybody, even today, you want to look good from what you see. But really, your power in hockey comes from everything in your backside, ass up and ass down to your ankles.
Yep.
And if I did that, I would suggest doing that is a huge thing. And then obviously, there's not enough importance on sleep and eating properly. And if you can actually understand that early, it puts you ahead of the game big time. So
yeah, I think just kind of I have a common thread kind of through all that as a individual. From the individual side of it, it's just like whether it's video or your recovery stuff, the way you train, whatever, all that comes down to your skill development. It all comes down to identifying your weakness things and attacking those. And because there's so many practices I remember honestly in AAA. I feel like I just didn't think ever. When I think back on it, it's like I feel like I just never thought about what am I specifically doing at practice today? What am I specifically working on? There's a lot of go through the motions. Not that you're not working hard, but it's mindless working hard as opposed to purposeful working hard. So when you're like, don't waste sessions, don't waste practices and workouts. And that doesn't mean you have to be a soldier and you're a 100% dialed in all the time, but just a little bit of a framework. That's 80% a boost to anything that you're doing. If you just have a tiny bit of framework or a little bit of purpose to whatever you're doing. So if it's video, if it's things you need to work on, if it's in the gym, if it's on the ice, if whatever, identify the weaknesses that you have and go into whatever the task is you're doing with actual purpose to get better for yourself. Because I remember like thinking back in junior, there's practices that went by where I was like, I don't even know what I did. Like, I don't even know what I was doing that practice. You know, the only thing I ever actively remember doing on purpose was on the power play working on one-timers. That was the only thing I ever remember, like, in the odd time I would have, okay, I'm going to shoot low blocker every shot this practice, or I did a little bit of that later on. But just like, if I don't have quick feet or I don't have good quickness, like every start of every drill, quickness, like there's something you can do is, you know, have some intent with what you're doing. And I think on the personal development side with respect to hockey, that's a huge thing that you can use as a lever to get better. Yeah. So
for my students or people that listen, there's a whole lot of stuff there, and that's my experience, and it's probably the same as a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it's easy to say in hindsight, right? Because if I took my first $100 and did the right thing with it, I'd be a billionaire right now. So hindsight, I guess I know hindsight is everything. But the point of that is that for kids, parents, coaches, whatever, if you come across things and it's like issues, challenges, and stuff like that, it's addressing them and finding a tool or a person or somebody that can maybe help you through it, right? If you can't do it yourself. So because when someone gets in a situation, like even if it seems like the most minor thing, like I don't really understand the power play, like, well, understand it. You need to understand it to be a good hockey player. Like that's my point, is like really understand the game and everything that goes into it to give yourself a fighting chance. And if you don't, surround yourself or find someone that can actually give you an idea. So for example, this podcast, or if you set up a consultation with us that said, you know, I just not fitting in the room, and it's like, okay, we can actually maybe go through it with you and say, yeah, it's you actually.
Yeah.
Or no, okay, so here's a thing you could do, or you know, all those kind of things, or find your local dude that can actually help you and give you a perspective. Mm-hmm. And if you do these little steps, so you're controlling what you can control, which is the biggest thing to me, and you can act on it, and then you get some results. That's my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. I got 2 things to finish.
Oh, good. I thought you were done.
No, I'm done.
You look done.
I'm done. But my 2 things to finish are, 1, keep in mind this is a little bit more for the parent side, because the kids are always like, I want to play in the NHL and all that's fine. But at the end of the day, everything you just said, you can apply that to whatever you want, right? So all of these things that you would be working on through hockey will translate to whatever the other thing is, because most kids aren't going to be hockey players. That's the reality. So like most of the people listening that want their kid to play in the NHL, not going to happen for most people. But what you're going to get out of the game is going to be all of these skills of making yourself a formidable person, in whatever the next thing is that you go on to, right? So don't forget, we're trying to squeeze as much as we can out of hockey. And if the end goal isn't hockey, you still want to squeeze as much as you can out of hockey, because it can transfer to other things, right?
Can't think. So, like honestly, I mean, maybe there's other fields other than sports where you can learn the same principles, but I don't know a better way to learn life than playing a sport. And hockey being a team sport makes it that much more. There's so many more lessons to learn, and it's a shame, and it's an absolute shame that people play the game or parents watch the game with the expectation of a goal at the end.
Yeah, they miss the value, man.
When you miss everything about it, because like exactly what you said, like most players are not playing, but that's not to say that I'm not qualified to tell you that you can, because the truth is nobody knows who's going to make it. Nobody. So if you have what it takes and the skill and all that stuff, then maybe you make it. But if you don't, now what? And do you have what you put so much time during the week and money invested and all that stuff? Do you get a return out of it? And if you do this thing the right way, you will. You're gonna learn all the principles. I'm not gonna even go into them, all of them.
Yeah, you'll be a hell of a person at the end, man. So,
it's great.
I'm gonna end on another quote.
Okay.
I like ending on quotes. I think I'm gonna keep ending on quotes.
I like it. I gotta just shut up after it then.
Yeah. So this is it. I'm shutting it off after the quote. Okay. This is from Albert Einstein. Any fool can know. The point is to understand. That's my end for today. See you guys next week.